Hello and welcome, as always, my beautiful audience. Welcome to another episode of Black Women Parlay. Now, I'm going to say thank you in advance to everybody who tells me I should have a radio show. I also agree. So, if anyone's listening, producers, BBC, whoever's listening, yes, I should have a radio show. I'm going back to my roots. Come find me. But that's not the reason why. Communication is at the basis, it's at the root of everything. How we communicate verbally, non-verbally. And actually, when I sat down and analyzed, I don't know what survey, because I love all of these tricky surveys. What's your superpower? Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, you know what? I don't need to do this. I know what my superpower is. My superpower is my ability to understand people and my ability to read signs and signals interlaced with the fact that humans are creatures of habit, right? This is the thing we have to understand. We are creatures of habit. But what I also understood is one of the things that you are not always taught is the power of communication and how you can hone and articulate that skill for each situation. Now, as I've been on this journey of connecting with amazing, and I say this every week, amazing Black women who are showing up and showing out consistently. And when I say consistently doesn't mean every day. Consistently, in the definition of Leanne's, consistent is I consistently dedicate myself to bringing value. I consistently dedicate myself to bringing value. These are the women that I'm honored and blessed to know, to have in a sisterhood, to share my life with. And my guest today, the one and only Nomathemba Malinga, is firmly in the middle of this crew. She's in my serious crew. She's in my jokes crew. She's in the champagne crew. Like, this woman is all of those things. And at the heart of all of this, she is an communications. I'm not even going to say expert because I don't like the word expert because it says so much. It lacks dynamism of self-learning. She's a guru, constantly on the journey herself, but also expounding from this font of knowledge. So without further ado, my girl, your girl. That's what I'm saying.
Ooh, that's a deep introduction. I'm about to look over my shoulder. I'm like, who are you talking about? But thank you so much. I am so humbled, my sister. I am so humbled. And I love that we're cross-border. I'm in a very light top. I'm in summer and you're in winter, but still our connection is deep and real. So thank you so much for the kind words.
Do you know what? This is my little philosophy. They're not kind because they're true. I'm just articulating the truth. It's not kind. I've told the truth of who you are as much as I know it. And that for me is an honor to be able to share this space, but also to share. I always come back to this concept, not mine, in terms of like building it out. But a friend of mine, Charlotte O'Leary, talked about this knowledge economy. And this is this part around these kinds of conversations is paying into the knowledge economies that each one of us can, excuse me, extrapolate something out of it. And how you pay into the knowledge economy has a direct impact as to what you receive via communication. So can you just tell us a bit about your story? Like, you're like, yes, go in.
My God. I'm not sure how to start, but I'm a trained broadcaster. So when you're talking about broadcasting, I'm a trained broadcaster and I'm a voiceover artist. I'm a professional voiceover artist. But by practice, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a businesswoman, quite intentionally so. But I'm a specialist in reputation management and crisis communication, having a nerves of steel, but doing it with grace. But in my passions, what underlines who I am is that I'm a teacher and I'm a healer. And that is who authentically I show up as. I am a teacher and I am a healer, and I practice those things through different mediums of communication and broadcasting. So as a broadcaster, I think when you have that training, you're quite intentional about how you brand yourself, how you talk, how you show up. And those principles are quite consistent in the business world, in your friendship circle, in your family, and in every single space that you walk in. It's your energy that you bring in, and it is your God-given abilities that walk into that room, and they are consistent in whatever platform, in whatever room that you enter. So that is who I am in a nutshell, really.
I like that. That's who I am in a nutshell, but that nutshell is absolutely huge. But you know something? It's that everything you do, the nugget of it and the how of it relies on good communication.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's about building trust. So let me tell you, as a business person, one thing that I always advise is saying that people buy and give business to people they like and they trust. Right? Even whether you're going to a job interview, you're pitching for business, or you're speaking on a public panel platform, people need to like you and need to give authenticity before they hear the messaging and the words that you say. So there's quite a science to how you build trust within the first 30 seconds of being in a platform, in a room with people you don't know, in a networking breakfast or whatever it is. But I think before you even utter a word, authenticity and building that trust and the energy that you bring into a room is important. So the communication starts there before you utter a word.
Yeah, I mean, I remember still hearing 85% of communication is nonverbal. And you know, when I think about like some of the memes about Black people, and it's like, you can just tell from that look.
Yeah.
Just that look, you know what? The look says everything you need to know.
Finished. But perhaps, Leanne, let's give our poly viewers just some basic tips on what to do, and perhaps, and I like starting from a point of mirroring behavior, right?
100. Yep.
Mirroring behavior, because that's the only way that we is a teachable moment, is when people mirror behavior back to people, so that if it triggers them, that's a sign that maybe it needs correction, and maybe they can show up better.
Yeah, but even just now, even to anybody who's listening, if you decide to watch the video on YouTube, what you will notice is even in our reactions between Nomathemba and I, there is a synergy. It's not deliberate, because when you've honed it after years, it just happens. You don't think about it anymore. But she smiles, I smile. I'm serious, she's serious. It's that instinctive part of mirroring language, shows that you understand the messaging. So you know that person, and there are obviously people who laugh at inappropriate moments, and that's like a quirk, because it's nervousness. But a lot of times the reflection and taking in a message is mirrored through body language. When the story becomes serious, the face changes, the audience face changes, and that's how you can read and interact and feel, okay, is it working? Just like a comedian has to understand, did my joke bomb? Because if I'm going to do it again, let me have a look at the audience. Okay, no one's following me. Right, I will move on and I won't use it again. It's being able to actively see that, but like you said, in milliseconds, as opposed to thinking that you've got hours to get to understand this.
Yeah. And perhaps let me take a little bit of a philosophical start, just to lay down the foundation. Good, trusted, authentic communication was important. Trusted authenticity is the key. Trusted, authentic communication is a resultant and a product of self-mastery. It really is about an alignment between your mind, body, and spirit. And I say that is because the body tattletales and tells of a story of an insecure mind or an unsure mind. The body will always tattletale on you because you don't have alignment of these three elements of you. So, we walk into rooms scripted, thinking that people are expecting you to show up in this kind of way to try and please and make other people comfortable. And in making other people comfortable, you make yourself uncomfortable.
Right.
So it is that alignment of self-mastery when you know that, for an example, just simple example, for me to be authentic, I speak with my hands. I'm a very visual kind of human, and I use it. And this for me is how I show up authentically. Wherever I'm talking, I use my hands. But if you are walking scripted thinking, these people don't like me speaking with my hands, I'm not going to put my hands under the table. I'm going to speak to you, but I'm going to be uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Just a simple example of how self-mastery, knowing yourself and what works for you, allows you to show up authentically, because you're not doing something that is extraordinary of who you are as a person. I hope that is quite simple. Yeah.
No, it does make sense. And I would even take it one step further, and I would say, to get to that point, it's about creating this space to learn how you learn, to learn how you speak, to learn how you interact, to understand what is the source of your discomfort in any given situation. Is it because you don't like public speaking? Okay. Do you not like public speaking because you don't have practice? Have you created the opportunities to practice at home with a camera, whatever it is? What is signature you in terms of communication? Because like you, I'm a hands girl. So I use my hands, and then sometimes I look up, forget NLP for 1 second, people, because I look up in both directions. It don't mean I'm lying. But, I look up, I think. I also understand that as a communicator, I will think out loud. So you and I will be having a conversation, and I will be processing my thoughts as I'm talking to you. And then as I'm processing those thoughts, I'll get to a result at the end, but it might have been difficult to follow me on the track. Or I'll just blurt out the end, and you're like, where's the rest of the story? We connect those two bits, please, Leanne. But recognizing that has been a product of three things. Going on my own learning journey, number one, having people around me who recognize my communication style. So it's like, I'm asking myself the questions. People are telling me that, and then practice. Yes. What feels comfortable to me and what doesn't. And, we both know that this concept of self-mastery is a journey, because you change and you grow. But it's that bit of, you have to want to challenge that. You have to want to kind of dig into it in a way that's more than, I don't like this.
Yes.
Because no one's born a good, well, actually, I'm lying. We're all born good communicators, because as babies, you make yourself known even if you can't speak, right? But it's this part of, we have to, and I was guilty of this too, we have to start to understand that everybody hones their skills, even if they don't tell you that.
They do. And just to add to that, it's that taking the brave journey to be uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Be uncomfortable. You need to sit in your discomfort, so that discomfort is good. It's a signal that you are ready to grow, and do better. When you want better, I want to be intentionally a better communicator. You got to sit in the discomfort, and you'll never be comfortable. I mean, you got to play to that strength. I love discomfort. I love change, and I think I wanted to underline when you were saying that the community of people that you have, and it's a safe space for Leanne to come back to me later and say, you know what, we had a great talk, but one or two things, let's look at them, and not take that as a personal attack, and take feedback from a safe network of people, and then grow and use that feedback in a constructive way without, taking that personally as if it's a personal judgment on you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's creating that healthy distance. And although we don't like to say product and look at ourselves as a product, the as much as we don't, as much as we don't pretend. Hi, Ryan. I'm hoping you can stitch these two together and it makes sense. When, if not, just find a point to make it make sense. But I think I've got my trail of thought back after Henry disturbed me. So I'm going to carry on now. So one of the things that I always think about is we don't like to view ourselves as a product. And being a product doesn't mean that you're authentic. It means having that level of self-awareness and understanding your own boundaries. And for me, this was one of the most difficult parts of my own journey, which was I didn't necessarily, I'm a social person, 100%, but I am a private person.
That we have in common.
Right. So I'm social, but I'm super private. So for me to find a way to authentically share Leanne, but also to preserve my inner peace, my privacy boundary, took me a few steps deeper because it forced me to question, how do I want to communicate? What do I want to communicate? And how do I still protect myself whilst protecting my family, but also being authentic wherever I am? And that line of balance took time, but it also involved, and people, we're not taught as Black women to think of ourselves as a product, because they say, when you think of product, it sounds enough. No, it doesn't. People have to understand, we all have to understand that at a certain point, and this comes back to your network too, if I hear of an opportunity somewhere in any room that I'm sitting in that moment, I need to know, well, that's brand Nomathemba. But I only know that it's your brand if you've made it clear to me in every single interaction, whilst preserving your privacy, that this is brand you. So that this is
stand for, and what to stand for, and what you won't accept, and
boundaries.
What you won't accept, boundaries.
Right.
So I love that. So how do you then, Leanne, then bring these lovely lessons then to a formal business environment and some of the cultural nuances to that then?
Excuse me. So for me, it's like we did an episode as well about personal branding. And for me, I mean, everyone says this, you might not remember a person, but you definitely remember how you made them feel. And before I go into any meeting, my question is, what is it? Because you never know how meetings are going to go. But my question is always, what is it that I want them to remember about me? Because to your point, people buy from people. They don't buy from businesses. People buy a piece of me, they buy a piece of you, and you express that through the different ways the different mediums you have. So when you go into any room, what is it that you want people to remember? What is that one piece? And a lot of this is underlined and underscored by storytelling, because your story anchors everything. And that you don't need to be scripted in. If someone says to me, and I'm famous for this in that sense, my friends know, like, what am I going to say tomorrow? I can't tell you. I know how I'm going to drive the car. I can tell you where I'm going to. So I'm going, as you said, like, I'm going to London, but I can't tell you if I'm going to take the motorway or the A roads, but we're going to get to London. The question is how. But when you have spent the time crafting, thinking about your story that's authentic, not scripted, and you prioritize the feelings of your audience, be it one person, be it a boardroom, be it executives, be it your team, prioritizing them and what you want them to take out of it drives how you show up.
Absolutely. And I think even more with practice, I think this gets a little bit better. There's a fine balance between showing up authentically as yourself and also playing to your audience. If you research and you know who's in the room, you know how they are as a person, you can kind of gather and do a bit of your research, is that I can bring Nomathemba as herself, but I'm able to adapt and adjust so that I can play to my audience in the best possible way, right?
Say that again.
And
say that again. Say that again. Because this right here is the point. Say again. Say again.
I adapt to the audience that I'm delivering to. I'm not changing who I am. I am adapting to the audience, my target audience, because I have a desired output that I've predetermined before I walk in.
And you can only adapt. And this is why it remains authentic. You can only adapt if you have the goods, right? Adaptation only works if you have it. It's an adaptation. It is not a change. Linguistically, right? It's not a complete change. It's an adaptation. So you have the goods. Your focus is on engaging with your audience.
And Leanne, an example, especially for me, I'm a Zulu woman. I'm not a first language English.
Sorry, I love just the way you even said, I'm a Zulu woman. Like, yes, come on.
I am not by any chance a first language English speaker. English is the fifth, sixth language I speak, right? And so culturally, certainly it's an advantage, I'll tell you, as Africans, is that we quickly know how to code switch and adapt our cultural nuances. As Africans, we're very loud and very dramatic in our language because that's how we show up authentically. But when I'm on a platform, maybe in Europe or in the US, I need to be conscious of being on Nomathemba, but maybe my tonality and how I'll never adapt my accent. That's just me being, but I will be conscious of how my audience perceives me and adapt, maybe speak a bit slower. There's some vocabulary that's very different around the world. I'll try use, vocab and jargon that is globally understood. That's what I'm talking about, just being very conscious and researching your audience and who you're talking to. Because full stop, Zulu woman, number one. The rest, I'm a businesswoman, but I'm a global communicator.
Yeah, listen, 100. Like, it's this part, and you talked about, let's bring it down to a business kind of context as well. I'm going to say to anyone, when you're writing a proposal for an organization, same, right? Go and look at the language that they're using. Just like I don't speak 5 or 6 languages, I only speak 3. Well, okay, 3 and 2/2, right? But the point is, just like when you're speaking to somebody in their language, they understand you. Yes, my voice is different when I speak German. Yes, my voice is different when I speak French. But you know what? The essence is still Leanne. And it's understanding that this is not fake. It's learning another language. You're still you in a different language. So instead of expressing something one way, you might say here to brighten, you might say here to illuminate, same thing. Different organizations.
Same.
But different. Right. It's right. It's that part about, if someone says to you, what is your role in being able to communicate? If I had to distill it down to one thing, become a walking thesaurus. Not necessarily linguistically, but think in your mind, in every single room, I need to find synonyms. I want to say this is my core message, but they speak this corporate language and that corporate language. So how do I take this word that I would usually use and match it and map it to theirs? Because this is what happens. And you'll see, dependent, if you watch every single one of my episodes, depending on who I'm talking to, depending on what happens, Nomathemba brings out the exuberant, the louder side of me, which I love, right? But this is the part you will feed off and get those signs and signals from your audience. Yeah. And if they're not jiving with you, and there'll always be someone that will do the little head nod. When I'm presenting, I always have gallery view on Zoom because I want to see who's nodding, who's not. If I'm getting nods or I'm getting smiles, if I crack a joke, I know it's the right. If everyone's still, time to switch. Time to switch.
I love how you made that example about presenting on virtual platforms. I'm just finding that also communication has had to quite adapt a little bit. You know, when you have a face-to-face audience, it's quite easy to play off their energy and communicate quite a little bit more in a comfortable state and be yourself. But then there's something about presenting to camera in your kitchen, in your lounge, that gives you a little bit of a discomfort, and because you don't have necessarily the energy to play off. So what tips should we give to our audience about how best to communicate when you are on a virtual platform?
I'm going to also say practice, practice, practice. So, you know, if you go and look at my LinkedIn, for example, 80% of my posts are me on video. I can also say now this is a personal detail, but you know, we're sharing. I will also say that I had practice from a young age with speaking because I was brought up as a Jehovah's Witness. Now, this isn't about being a witness. This is about you are trained from a very young age on public speaking. Now, that doesn't mean it transfers to video, but what it means is that you just have to jump over that step. I'm not saying that you have to go out and make videos for anybody, because long before I was making videos for anybody, if you look through my phone, I was making videos for myself. I was making videos, 5-minute challenge makeup. I was making videos and bombarding friends. My friends were making videos and bombarding me. It comes back to network. But also this construct is, how can you feel comfortable yet professional, and what can you do about your personal surroundings to elevate that? And it's all practice and a willingness to want to, because, you know, I've been guilty of that, wanting to be perfect without having put in the time to develop the skill. Yeah. And then you come out the box and you're like, oh yeah, that's rubbish. Put the time in. It has to be something you want, because we all know the same, right? We all know when you get on a Zoom call and there's the one person that starts talking. And when they start talking, you start using your web WhatsApp to send someone else in the chat a message because you're too scared to use the Zoom chat just in case you send it to everyone. Are they done yet? Right? We all know that. Yeah, or you quickly switch your camera off and you go get a coffee.
Yeah, no. I mean, I think that's true. So perhaps from my side, let me give maybe 5 practical mirroring behaviors.
Yes, do it.
Out for. And I think this it's come easy because I'm a trained broadcaster, and for me it's played to my strengths.
Yes.
You know, presenting and so on. But with technology, everybody must be very conscious that I can zoom in and out, and the pictures are quite crystal clear. So your nonverbal becomes really magnified. One of them is breathing. So if you're nervous or you're speaking too fast, you can see your breathing hyperventilating right here on your diaphragm and your chest. Be conscious to sit, drink some water, have some water, take your breaths, take your time, and use your silence. You know, don't speed practically, because if you start having anxiety, again, mastery. If you struggle with anxiety, I'll see it here in your chest. Just be conscious of yourself and put in mechanisms for that. Number 2, it is your eyes. Your eyes, windows to the soul, absolutely clear. Don't have shifty eyes. Be conscious where your lens is sitting. And if you have notes, I'd rather put your notes right sticky. No one's going to see that you've got 50 million stickies on your screen. So put your stickies around, but it must be on eye length so that your eyes are not too shifty. You're not going up and down and things like that. Try keep your composure, because shifty eyes, for some reason, people believe that you're not confident in your subject matter.
And I just wanted to add one thing there, which is, I'm not promoting this because I've only just seen it on TikTok, but there are now ways where you can take your phone and you can use your phone almost as a teleprompter at eye level to kind of.
I do that.
Okay.
And I put it just right by my camera so that I'm reading, but my eye level is still
You're
towards the
there.
camera.
I've never used it before, but I'm like, because I'm a freestyler, but I was like, I like the idea. Hold it up. And then, it's all worth trying if it's going to, as you said, A, alleviate anxiety, but B, give you that professional finish that has people focusing on your message rather than
Surroundings, the noise.
shift it.
That was my next tip, actually. I
Sorry.
was like, calibrate your sitting area. Make sure where your lighting is coming from. As dark-skinned women, I always say, when I was in broadcasting, there must be a separate course about lighting for dark-skinned women. Make sure the light is in front of you, not behind you. Light behind you makes you look darker. No one can see your smile and your face. Have an extra light in front of you, on your side. Be conscious of your lighting and your surroundings and your sound. As Leanne just rightfully said, make sure you've calibrated and taken care of. We have load shedding here where the power goes randomly sometimes, and the internet connections, but have backups. If it happens, get back on the ball within the next 5 minutes. You can just apologize, but have a plan B if those things happen. But then finally, your audio, just make sure your audio is good. But beyond the audio, the tone of your voice, use your silence, speak softly, speak intentionally. You don't have to run through it. And I'm using my tones and underlines intentionally so that you can understand how you use your voice up and down, your tone, because if you're monotone, people are going to fall asleep. So use the silence, underline, go up, your pitch, but all of those, of course, are practice. But I just thought, let me share these 5 tips, and if you put those 5 things, I promise you, your communication and how you present will go up very quickly.
Agreed. And I would even add one and say, things will go wrong. Somebody will ask you a random question. It will not be what you thought it was. Nerves will give you mental block. You might stutter, splutter, the whole thing. Doesn't matter. Do you know how many times I've been like, sorry, can't get my sentence out. And people have laughed, like it happens all the time, whatever. Frog in my throat, whatever it might be. You don't have to be perfect.
What to say that? Action is so toxic. Sorry, I have to say this.
Yeah. No.
Is toxic.
100%. And it's that, like, you don't have to be perfect. No one's looking for your perfection. You can be perfect and monotonous and, I have delivered every single one, and you almost become robotica, as I like to call her when I'm playing with my kids. Like, you can deliver like that, but no one's going to remember it. They're going to remember a really stilted presentation. Being human, forgetting, needing a break, blah, blah, blah. I lost my train of thought. Do you know how many times I've lost my train of thought because I've been talking and someone's asked me a question, and because I'm being nosy, I've read the chat and I've gone, oh, oops, lost my train of thought.
I'm nervous. You can just say, oh, guys, like crack a little bit of, I'm nervous today. This is very important for me, but I'm nervous, but we'll get through it. Just
real, like it's not. Doesn't matter how many times you do it. You can ask okay, we're not saying we're celebrities here, but you can ask any performer. You can do the same thing 10 times a day and still be nervous every single time, because it shows a healthy respect for the situation. It shows a healthy respect for your audience, that your priority is delivering and bringing them value. And you want to communicate that because you also intrinsically believe that what you have to say is a value add.
Absolutely. I mean, I think you've said a mouthful. You see, that on its own, I'm like, okay, I'm not sure what else there is to say about communication, because that for me is being human, but wanting to improve your brand. But it's okay to falter and to make mistake. It's okay. People buy from humans, not machines, and be forgiving spirit, and offer even when you're in the audience and you're not on the platform, on the pulpit, on the podium, offer reassurance. It's so nice to have that extra smile in the audience, someone to give you just that extra energy, even when things are tense, just to nod, just to smile. So as yourself, offer the next person on the stage your support and give them your energy. And I think that if you're looking for someone to give it to you, you also need to be willing to give that validation to the next person. And I think that is important for Black women, for us to then be a safe space to reassure each other, even if we don't know me, but a nice smile, a nice nod, a nice burst of energy, and even post just to say, well done, that really goes a long way for you to prepare for your next one so that you show up a little bit more confident.
Right. And it's giving back and creating that virtuous circle. Like, if there's only one Black woman in the room, I don't need to know you, but I'm going to be clapping. Like, yeah. Now, if presentation isn't great, that doesn't matter, because you know what? You're on the podium. So we're good. It's remembering that bit, like, create a virtuous circle, create the space to make sure that the interaction that you're having with another Black woman that you do not know is a value add.
Absolutely. I mean, that's important, because we all need validation. And I've always heard people be like, validation. No, I'm not going to live with it, but it helps to give me a little bit of a boost in that particular moment to show up a little bit better.
Yeah. And I think there's a difference between validation of your whole existence versus validation in a situation, right? And that's what we're talking about. We're talking about validation in this situation, that, hey sis, you got this, you're doing a good job, I see you, I'm proud, blah, you're on this platform and I'm watching you on this platform and I'm in the audience. I take my hat off to you to doing it, right? Like, that for me, giving that validation is priceless, because you never know what it has taken somebody to get to that point. We all see the end product.
Yes. You don't know what somebody in the Uber on the way there, what happened in the morning. They had to drop off their children. They had a fight with the husband. But lights on, they need to still deliver and show up, right? Because we shop in different spaces. We're women. We've got many different things that show up. But then at this moment, I need to show up. And so sometimes they just need that extra reassurance and their energy so that they can remember and bring out their God-given ability to communicate, and so that they can develop later on in their life. So for me, that's important.
I have nothing further, Your Honor. I think nothing further, Your Honor. Now, I can't promise you, ladies, I know that there are gentlemen also listening, I can't promise that Nomathemba and I aren't going to do some sort of workshop. We may do a workshop on this, but obviously this is going to be for Black Women Parlay members only, so miss out. So you know what to do. Sign up, go to the website. But Nomathemba, where can everybody find you? Which of your brands should we be looking for you under? And what would you like to be your takeaway message?
So my takeaway message, and again, true to being a healer and a communicator and a teacher, is master yourself. Show up consistently, both in body, mind, and spirit. And it's an intentional process. Sit in your discomfort, because discomfort is the lever and the stepping stone to your greatness. So remember that, in anything you do. So that is, for me, is very important. Right. But anyway, you can find me under Zindela Communications, but also follow me on LinkedIn. My name is Nomathemba Malinga. It's Nomathemba. But let's connect, let's chat, and I would love, to have further conversations about more things about communication and leadership.
Thank you so much, my darling. It has been a wonderful show, insightful, really getting to grips with some fundamental but easy to implement tips on how you can really get to that point of listening to yourself, learning about yourself, really connecting. How do I show up? Do I show up in a way I want to? I'm with you. I love all of this around discomfort. We even do like a corporate workshop called How to Lean into the Discomfort of Allyship, because right there, you got to do it. So you all know now where to find my lovely Nomathemba. Find me as usual on Instagram at Leanne MM. That's the woman behind the brand. Black Women Parlay, same on Instagram, blackwomenparlay.com, to come and join us behind the wall, our invitation only network. You can follow me on LinkedIn, and that's Leanne Mair. So that was a mouthful, but we will be back once again for another episode. So wishing you a wonderful day, evening, morning, wherever you are in the globe. Bye-bye.